In a bit of a shocker, September 2022 is the scariest box office returns we've seen so far. Scarier than the 2022 pandemic shutdown. 2022 is the worst performing September box office in 26 years. Hollywood has nobody to blame but themselves, and here talking about that is Hollywood insider Aaron Sparrow.
Yes, I'm so just such a Hollywood insider. You wouldn't believe the insight that I have.
You know Grace, right?
Yeah, no, actually, I did work. Oh my gosh, yeah, I worked with Grace Randolph.
Wow.
Coming from the Hollywood Insider, after a summer boom, domestic box office revenue for September 2022 plummeted to a projected $328.7 million, the worst showing for the month in a quarter of a century, according to ComScore. The last time it was that low, excluding 2020, during the heart of the COVID-19 crisis, was September of 1996 at $326.7 million. The Woman King is the month's top earner as of September 29th with a domestic return of nearly $40 million, while Don't Worry Darling has earned $24.4 million in its first 4 or 5 days. Think about this, Aaron. In 1996, the average ticket cost for a movie was $4.42. In 2022, it's $9.17, over twice as expensive, yet somehow it barely eked out the box office returns of 26 years ago.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. The people are paying more, but I think that we're seeing a recession. We're seeing Hollywood put out product that people aren't interested in. So what did you expect was going to happen?
So you think this is more of a rebuke on Hollywood and what they're putting out? Obviously, there is a financial downturn, and we do have some other choices out there. But quite frankly, it feels like we're just being inundated with woke content. Obviously, September was a really good, example of that.
Even if, things are not necessarily woke content, I feel like it's just been so hammered into the marketing of so many movies that now people just interpret things as being woke, even if they really aren't.
Well, we had Charlie's Angels from Elizabeth Banks, where now she's saying, we screwed ourselves because the marketing said that it was some type of feminist propaganda piece. She said it was just an action movie. And I'm going, I remember you specifically saying this movie is for girls. It's not for men.
Yeah, no, the marketing. And you know what? A lot of these websites, too, whether or not they intend the marketing to be that way, a lot of the websites pick it up. These fan sites that they're listening to and people on Twitter, they don't help the cause of these films.
Well, yeah, and it's been building up for so many years. You can only have so many examples where they're telling you why you shouldn't see the movie. You go and see it anyway because you're like, well, I like the franchise, or I liked a movie like this back in the past. And then when you go see it, you're like, nope, it's exactly what they said it was.
People who tell me that I suck and that they, this movie's not for me. Okay, I'll take your word for it. It's not for me. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to spend my money. And then the articles come out crying about why didn't men go to see Charlie's Angels? You told me not to.
I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time.
Well, and I'm tired of people trying to emotionally manipulate me into watching stuff. There's no doubt people have alternatives to movies nowadays with streaming services and video on demand. But there's a much bigger problem here, Aaron. They don't even hide what they're trying to do anymore. With The Woman King, which we talked a little bit about earlier, people were told that the only reason you won't see the movie is because you don't support black women. And according to reports, with a reported $50 million budget, the film likely needed to clear $190 million worldwide to break even, but they never gave people a reason to go to the movie, so it did okay, but it's not even going to break even, although it's a hit.
No, I was interested in seeing that movie when I first saw the trailers. I was like, oh, this looks like it's kind of badass. And then I saw the marketing and Viola Davis saying, if you don't go see this movie, you're sending a message to Hollywood that you don't want black leads. And I was like, that's not a compelling reason for me to go see the movie. I care about the story and I care about whether or not the movie looks good. And you now reframe the movie in my mind to where I'm like, oh, this movie's a political statement. And I lost interest and I haven't gone to see it.
It's kind of crazy. It feels like there's a big change going on within Hollywood. We've seen Netflix come out with, with policy saying, if you're offended by the content that we put out on the platform, maybe you shouldn't work at Netflix. We're not changing for you. Obviously, we saw what happened with Disney, where they came out and they made a political stance. It has absolutely cost them money hand over fist. There's a possibility that we're seeing the final stream. They're particularly aimed at progressive viewers only that don't have wide appeal, to where they're going to have to start, transferring over to more mass appeal movies that aren't trying to exclude people or emotionally manipulate people into just considering going.
Yeah, for example, Bros failed this weekend, had a dismal box office opening. I think it didn't even make $5 million. And it was Billy Eichner. It's like a gay rom-com. And then it does poorly because it's a niche product for a niche audience. And, largely straight people aren't interested in going to see gay romances. That's just something that you're going to have to deal with, is it's not made for a mainstream audience. You're not going to get mainstream dollars into this movie. But he came out and he was upset, obviously, that his movie failed, and I get that. But he's blaming it on homophobia. And it's like, it doesn't really have anything to do with homophobia. It just has to do with content that people aren't interested in watching.
Well, and the way that they frame the movie in the trailer.
Yeah, there's actually a moment. It's funny. I have a friend who we were watching the YouTubes like you do, and the ad came on, and my friend was like, "Oh, this looks amusing." And then it got to the point where there's like a meeting, and there's all these people in there, and then one of the lesbian characters says, "Oh, remember straight people? Yeah, they had a good run." And he goes, "Oh, okay. So you just told me to F off. I don't want to see it now."
They had a potential customer on the line that was willing to consider going to the movie, and then they put in a little jab there that basically told him, no, you don't want to come to this movie. I remember when Brokeback Mountain came out. I was home with my family. I think it was Thanksgiving, and we always would go to a movie for Thanksgiving. I think we saw Walk the Line. And I'm sitting there with my cousin, and all of a sudden there's like an Ang Lee Western trailer that's on the big screen, and I like elbow my cousin because I love Westerns. I'm like, hey, cool, Ang Lee Western, that sounds interesting. And like a minute into it, he leans over and he goes, I think this is a gay Western. Yep. And that was the extent of it that you got through the trailer. But I can guarantee you, if this movie came out in 2022, and I wasn't opposed to going to see it just based on the trailer, the marketing campaign itself would put me off to the movie so badly, in the amount of people on social media telling me I was a bad person because I wasn't super excited about a gay Western. I would never, ever consider seeing it nowadays.
Yeah, no, they tank, they shoot themselves in the foot coming out of the gate. And that's what you're seeing all across the board. And, we want good stories. We want compelling stories. And, you can go see something like that and you can enjoy it. You can get something out of it.
Obviously, we're seeing a lot of this stuff going on with the MCU, but specifically with Black Panther Wakanda Forever, with Tenoch Huerta's version of Namor, which is off-putting to comic book readers and is a bit jarring. We made a video talking about what Tenoch Huerta had to say that was going to be off-putting to people and giving them a reason not to go support the movie. And I've had people call me an outright racist just for pointing out what he was saying was off-putting to people. People are so insane, they will just say anything to anybody and try to beat you over the head just because you have a difference of opinion nowadays. And everybody's getting more polarized because things are just breaking down like in society.
Where do you live, Wes? Remind me.
I'm in the Philippines.
And your wife is Filipina?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a racist then? because you took issue with something somebody said. This is the cudgel that people are using. It's like, you can't get by on merit. You can't get by on the merit of the product. So what you have to do is you have to use minorities as a shield, and that's largely what Hollywood is doing with some of these castings and these this marketing and these race and gender swaps and things like that they're doing, and then touting that as the main reason to see the movie. Like, marketing Thor as the gayest Marvel movie ever was not gonna pull people into the box office. You're gonna turn off families who don't want to have that conversation with their kids, and you're gonna turn off just people who are like, I don't need to see this if that's what it's all about. I want Thor. I want Thor kicking ass. That's what I want out of a Thor movie.
Anyone else?
There might be a changing in the air, but it's clear that there's something wrong with the box office. People don't see the value add to go and see movies in the theater, specifically when they're not trying to make things that are mass appeal, like a Spider-Man No Way Home, like a Top Gun Maverick, stuff like that. That it doesn't matter what your political beliefs are. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't matter what your race is. The movie is for you because it's entertaining, and it's meant to be entertaining to everybody. They've decided to break these things down into these weird little niche audiences, and the thing is absolutely blowing up. And it's not surprising that you can have over 100% increase on ticket sales from 1996 and somehow have the exact same box office 26 years later.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, Wes. I think that we're seeing a shift. We're seeing like a rebranding going on. Nobody's going to come right out and they're not going to say, hey, we screwed up. We shouldn't have been producing all this. It didn't work out. They're not going to say that. They're just going to quietly pivot. So we probably got some stuff that's in the pipeline now that still has to come out and fail. But I think that, right now, moving forward. I think people are aiming for a more mainstream audience. And that's what you have to do if you want to have a big blockbuster.
Yeah, you don't make a political statement. You make an entertainment statement.
Politics is so ingrained in every aspect of our lives because of stupid social media, and on a level that that it never has before, that Hollywood could be making money hand over fist by just delivering what they used to be good at, which is escapism. One of the reasons that Star Wars was so huge was not only the massive technical achievement when it came out in 1977, but it was because the movies had been so depressing for so long. Coming out of the Vietnam War, people were depressed. All these movies were, about these like sad sack corrupt cops and, just about the war and just about the human condition being miserable. And Star Wars came out and it was a bright, optimistic space fantasy and everybody went nuts. And so Hollywood, they need to duplicate that model. They need to be putting out mainstream entertainment like Top Gun Maverick.
Speaking of Top Gun Maverick, there was recently an insider that was talking about how that movie and Sonic and some other things is literally breaking Hollywood in half along ideological lines. I made a video about that with Aaron Sparrow talking about how Top Gun Maverick is breaking Hollywood in half. If you don't see it here, you need to see this. There's also a link in the video description.